Greetings, friends. I want to take a moment to talk to you about your mind, your desires, your intention, and your words. When we look at the book of James, there's a portion in chapter 3 where James is addressing the believers that are scattered then in the early church and talking about the fact that their tongues are set on fire by hell. I don't want to look at the negative side. I want to look at the principles and metaphors when he says, "Behold also ships, although they are so large and driven by strong winds, they are guided by a very small rudder wherever the inclination of the pilot wishes. So also the tongue is a small member of the body, and boasts of great things. Behold how small a fire sets ablaze how great a forest." So we've got the metaphor of ships that tie to something in the human experience. We've got the metaphor of strong winds, and we've got the metaphor of a rudder, and then we've got the inclination of the pilot. Now, when we think about the pilot, that's the person directing the sailboat or the ship at sea. And if you think about the ship, let's think about your life as a journey. The ancient church saw the ship oftentimes as the journey of life, and the ship is guided by our mind. So that if you think about your mind in relationship to the ship, that we are on the high seas of life's great adventure, and those seas can be turbulent, they can be restless, they can be filled with fear and trepidation, they can be calm, but you have to learn how to sail and navigate those turbulent waters, those chaotic waters, because life doesn't come tied up in nice, neat bundles that are always wonderful. It just doesn't. And so we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. There are contrary winds. So our minds have to continually be girded and aware that on this journey from where we are to where we want to be, to our desired haven of rest, we're going to have to navigate our way and deal with contrary winds and learn how to use winds to work in our direction and in our favor and learn how to direct that rudder. Well, if the mind is the ship, what then are the winds? The winds can be indeed the desires that we are either meditating on that come from God's goodness, or the desires of the enemy that are being suggested to us that want to take us in places that are self-destructive and unhealthy. And so the ship, the mind, has to learn how to navigate the way through these winds, these desires that are rooted in intentions. The rudder is at the core of the navigation of the ship, while the sail deals with the wind. The rudder directs the path through the sea. Now, James ultimately says that the rudder is the tongue, but the rudder is actually the reality of what comes out of the mouth that flows from the heart, because Jesus said, out of the abundance of our heart, our mouth speaks. So the rudder ultimately is about the intentions that become the things we bring to speech. And as the pilot of your ship, as the you, I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live, yet not I, but Christ lives in me. At the core of who you are, you have to learn how to guard your mind and gird your mind for action, and learn how to work with the desires of your heart, discerning good and evil, and learn how to form intentions that are good and upright and becoming and will bring you to your desired potential, your desired actualization, your desired objectives, and move you in a direction that moves you away from hell's intention to destroy and sabotage and mess with you, so that when you bring things to speech, you bring things to speech that are good, that are acceptable, that are mature, that are not boasting of things beyond your ability, but are sharing things that bring life. So I want you to think about your mind as a ship. I want you to think about your desires, both good and evil, as the winds you have to navigate. And I want you to think about your intentions as what the matters of your heart are that determine what comes out of your mouth. And as the pilot, you're in charge of all of that. And I pray that the words of your mouth and the meditations of your heart will be acceptable in His sight, because He's your strength and He is your Redeemer.